Hey friends, welcome to the channel. I'm Ken Smith, and behind me is going to be a major challenge for me. We're going to have to span nearly a 6-foot gap here. And I think I finally figured it out. So let's get at it. Now, if you've been following me for any length of time, you already know that I'm the old guy who's having fun with trains. You might be older than me, you might be younger than me, but I encourage you to have fun first because that's what this hobby's all about. So I even had fun with the name. John Allen kind of inspired me, and so I call it the Barlee Makinet Railroad. Our junk gets it done. And so that's kind of our theme. As we go around the railroad, I have all sorts of fun names that, again, kind of John Allen inspired type of thing. So when I get to this canyon, we're gonna do a micro engineering tall viaduct bridge here in the front, but in the back we're kind of going to do something along the lines of a combination of rock tunnel and the highline on the Durango and Silverton. And so I was telling my beautiful bride, who enjoys my humor. Not everybody does, but she puts up with it and she tolerates it. And so I said, I need a name for this canyon. I need to come up with something. And I told her I've got the name of the bridge, and but I need a name of the canyon. And so I'm running by all of these funny names, or at least what I think is kind of funny. And she tells me, why does everything on your layout have to be funny? Now, I don't know if you have one of those wives, but in that moment, I had to think, is she really being serious or not? And she was kind of being serious, actually. She says, you know, not everything has to be funny on your railroad because it's just too much. And I'm like, well, I don't know. It's my railroad. Nothing's too much for me. It might be too much for you, but okay. So she says, you should come up with something serious. And so I started thinking about it, and I'm like, I got it. So the name of the canyon is SUM for some, and this is all one word, Some Serious Canyon. Yep. That's it. So, Some Serious Canyon. And that's what we are going to attempt to do today, is start spanning that gap. And so I've got some ideas in mind. I'm going to get the camera up there closer so you can see just what we're doing. Okay, the first thing I did was I just cut a 2x4 to the right length, and then just used a rafter hanger and dropped a 2x4 in there just to kind of get a general idea. So we'll step back here so you can kind of see how that looks now. But that is essentially going to be our high line. I'm going to cut a piece of foam now to match the height of the top of the foam there, and then we can glue that in place and then glue some cork. And that's the easy part. I'm still working on getting here to the front, but I think I have a solution for that too. All right, now that we got our beam in, I'm going to walk up a little closer and show you what I did, because you may not notice from here, you may, but when we get up closer, you'll definitely see we have an incline on that side right there. So if you look at where this is versus where this is obviously a little bit lower, and this is obviously a little bit higher. Now, in order to compensate for that, I could do one of two things. I could use this stuff and try to match it over on that other end. I think that's an awful lot of work, and unnecessary work, and really an unnecessary expense. I've got leftover foam. So the smart thing to do is to shim it. This isn't really weight bearing. If you think about it, all we're doing is running a train on there, and I guarantee you that that beam in and of itself is already overkill. So why, you know, a 2x4 is a lot cheaper than, you know, $20 worth of that stuff. And so I'm just not doing it. And I've got lots of leftover foam. And what I did to accomplish this and make it match the top, I actually am using scrap 2-inch, so 2 layers of 2-inch foam, and then a layer of 1-inch foam. And because of the grade differential, I don't have to really do any kind of massive trimming to try to get this down. It's just some very gentle sanding, literally, once we get the cork on top of it, to just kind of make everything nice and flush. So we're going to go ahead and start cutting this and gluing it in position. I now have two 2-inch, actually 4, because of having to do a butt joint there, but I'm going to stagger those anyway. But anyhow, getting back to what I wanted to show you, I now have the minus an inch on either end. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to trace a line all the way across here. This is going to give me this whole section to actually cut off and then attach it here to the front, and then that's going to give me my whole cliff face, the basic structure anyway for the cliff face. We're obviously going to do some rock molding and whatnot, but that gives me the basic foundation for that. So we're going to go ahead and cut that next and then put that in place. All right, now that I got this cut and in position, I'm going to generously apply my Tite Bond Quick and Thick to the back side of this, because we are actually going to glue this kind of direct to our backdrop. And then we're going to clamp it in position and let that sit overnight. And we will come back and check on its status. And then we can glue our foam to our 2x4 and do the same thing. We'll let that glue set overnight as well. I got our backdrop in position. I went ahead and actually was able to screw it on, and so those screws actually drew it up nice up against the backdrop. And so I was actually able to go ahead and glue our styrofoam in and kind of clamp that down and get everything in position. We also have, the nice thing about cutting that, as you can see, I have a, this is actually what we cut off of, because it's kind of pointless to have it sitting back there and doing nothing. So we now have a face that we can apply to this canyon, and that's going to make that that highline kind of Durango and Silverton thing look really, really nice. Excited about that. So we're going to let this glue dry and then come back and start putting a few other things in position, because we have a front here that we need to worry about, and that's going to be a little bit more challenging. This ought to give you a better perspective now that we've got the wall glued and screwed on, and you can kind of see how that's going to be the high line. If you follow the track, I've got some Bachmann Easy track sitting over there, just so this gives me a little bit of a perspective. This piece of wood right there, that's where we're going to put our micro-engineering tall steel viaduct. These big blocks of styrofoam, I actually found on Marketplace. They were $1 a piece. And I know it's not the blue foam, the green foam, the pink foam, whatever, but it works for what I need it for. And at $1 a piece, there's not much styrofoam I can buy. I just need something to kind of fill in a void. And these are ideal. Bought 4 of them, and I'm actually going to use all 4 to just kind of fill in the void and save myself having to go out and get any of the expensive foam. And I saved all the other scraps so that I can build that V that fits in here. Over here, we're going to do the waterfall, and I talked with my beautiful bride, and she made some really cool suggestions as to what to possibly do over there. But this is going to be kind of a V shape with the tall steel viaduct kind of fitting and spanning that. I think that's really going to be a real centerpiece, because this is what you're going to see after you walk in. You'll see the mine first and the stamp mill, because that's right in front of you. But when you make the right turn to face the layout, this is actually what you're going to see. And so I'm really excited about that. Also, what I really like is the fact that, you know, this is a 6-foot span, and tiny trains on that ledge, I just think is going to look so stinking awesome. So after we allowed the glue to dry on the big blocks, you can kind of see where I now have the blocks kind of in position. And then I've got some foam that obviously we're going to probably put some cork over here and just kind of, you know, extend our track all the way across this gap, and then to the other side. And then eventually we'll have our connection here. Now, our plan, and actually my wife suggested this, is our goal is to kind of cut a bridge in this section here with like a little stream, maybe even make it look like there's a stream that kind of goes through there, and just kind of meanders a little bit along here in this general area. And then about where this big blue spot is probably where we're going to start kind of narrowing this down, like it's almost a waterfall. But she made the suggestion of actually, instead of it just falling straight down, is actually kind of tiering it so that it kind of falls down here, and then maybe a little bit more, and then kind of falls down here, and then maybe a little more, and then falls all the way down to the bottom. And then we'll cut a stream in here, and it goes off the railroad. And I kind of like that idea. I think it'll add a little bit more visual interest. Again, here, this is all going to be like sheer rock cliff, if you will. And remember, I said we're going to simulate rock tunnels. So rock tunnel on the Cumbres and Toltec, which used to be on a portion of the Denver and Rio Grande Western narrow gauge. We're going to have rock tunnel kind of come through here. So this will all be kind of tunnel, and then coming out of the tunnel, and we'll have that little rock formation and some stone wall carved just like the prototype, and then the rest of this will just be kind of a cliff. And then it goes off to the other side, does a 2% grade downhill into our town. So that is kind of, when we take a step back, that is how it's going to look. I've had a couple people actually reach out to me and ask me what I do to cut styrofoam. And I'll be honest with you, you can probably figure it out when you look at this. I use a circular saw and just goes, you know, slow and steady, and it doesn't melt. But for some of the other precision cuts, instead of a wire hot knife, I actually have an old school hot knife. And I've had this thing for probably 30 years. I don't even know if you can buy one of these anymore. But this literally cuts just like a hot knife through butter. If you can find one of these, this is a great tool to have in your arsenal, especially if you're trying to cut and shape 2-inch you know, the 2-inch foam. This just works really, really well.
I think this has the potential of a great scene, especially when we got one train that is approaching and crossing the highline, like you see right here in the distance, and another train going in the opposite direction, crossing our micro-engineering bridge once we get that assembled. Now, if you can believe this or not, that is an old school Bachmann 440. So that's just plain old DC tender drive. And I'm just totally impressed with it. I think there's going to be great opportunity, not only for photography, but for videography on this layout. There's just so many great angles. If you haven't figured it out yet, we have the track laid down and almost completed. And I'm guessing you figured out where the gap is. And that's what we're going to be working on next. Have a wonderful day, and you all be blessed.